Hello, and welcome back to a mess of a city. In the last episode, we rebuilt this beautiful intersection while having the game somewhat unpaused and just letting Economy 2.0 simulate in the background. There are a lot of changes that are happening as a result of Economy 2.0, and when I finally looked up from my beautiful intersection at the end of last episode, I saw waves and waves and waves of death. Now, this is fully to be expected, to be fair. We were entirely warned of this. None of this comes as a surprise. But our city, beautiful as it is not doing particularly well. And in this episode, we're going to continue to ignore all of that. I really enjoyed fixing up this highway interchange like we did last episode, and I think that one of the things that I want to do is use Move It to fix out some of these lumps and bumps that we have on this interchange right now. But then I want to carry and continue my city fixes to probably this airport over here, because I think that this whole area is a little bit of a mess and could do with some reworking. So let's jump right into that. Okay, welcome back. To be completely honest, I'm kind of just been playing around and not really paying too much attention to the recording, which is not a very good creating process. But hey, we have made some pretty good progress and we've made some pretty unique features within this airport area. I decided to keep a lot of the foundational concept of it, having this highway running around, forming a bit of a loop, and then coming back, but I changed up basically how the entire thing works. So let's run through at least those changes that I made. So this highway to start with comes in here, which is pretty standard, but then it splits off. First, it has this main segment, which remains a highway, and that gets sunken down through the middle as kind of a bypass to this elevated bit, which is turned into a local road, and that local road is where all the cars can park, load, unload, drive right through, And we've also added a landfill, so this is the local road is where the garbage trucks will end up going. This landfill was really because the airport has this whole big patch of green space, which I'm not really a fan of. I understand that some green space kind of makes sense for a airport like that, but it just didn't fit with the site. I think the fact that it's confined to such a barren rectangular shape doesn't really work. So I fit in a landfill in there, and I think that's serving its job pretty well. And then this highway eventually connects back up the local road as it turns both into a 3-lane highway that loops around this mountain, this hill area. This hill area is in concept what drove the creation of this rail line originally, and then this highway further on, as well as this stone monument up top. There used to be a little bit of parking garage and some parking in this loop, but I thought we would just leave it as a nice little hill. This highway then loops back around, and on one hand it goes off and turns into a local road, which we're treating as kind of a parking access road. This is where we have a lot of our parking lots, including our main surface parking, a lot of canopy covered and motorcycle parking, and then our big rental car area, which is kind of run down looking very deliberately. There's a lot of random cars just placed in... Never mind. There used to be a lot of random cars just placed in here, and it seems that they are functional cars. So the Sims kind of take them over and move them around a bit. So that's good to know. But there used to be a bunch of cars in here, and we might just clone a bunch more of these agents' cars and maybe some more of these junk cars just to fill in the lot a little bit. But this is our rental car lot. You can see all the different agencies over here type of thing. It's a very surface type of one. Normally you would see it in a big building in a big city, and we might have a similar concept to that in our other airport. But in here we have it kind of like a surface lot. If we go back to this 2-lane highway intersection, one lane continues back down into our sunken highway as an express lane out of the area, and then one lane comes back up and around with a little bit of parking access here and there, kind of sporadically, a little bit of rental car access, but for the most part this is just a little bit of a collector for this back road as it merges back in a couple of different times and carries us on to our train station. Now the train station, here is where you can see why I sunk down this highway. It's so that we can have these pedestrian roads that link the train station up to the main airport on a low traffic way. Previously we had these 2 high traffic 6 lanes of traffic that separated the airport and the train station, and people would have had to cross over that. There were no proper crosswalks. It was kind of a little bit of a nightmare. This is a low traffic, low speed area. The high speed highway is down below, so it's not getting in the way of the pedestrians. It's a low traffic, low speed area, easy to cross over, very pedestrian focused, and really just enhances the experience of these twin buildings. These buildings go a lot more hand in hand now, and I really appreciate that element of them. These pathways, we attempt to link them up with where the pathways might reasonably be. The front entrance over here, side entrance over here, little pathway through the parking lot over there, and then the entrance for the train stations on both of these guys. But we're definitely still not done. As much progress as this is really just like a splot of detail in a sea of undetailed, unlandscaped area, and I think that needs fixing. I want to note as well, just as with the other thing that we did with the intersection over here, I've been trying to maintain access the entire time. So while this was all being renovated, I turned the original bypass street up here into a 2-way so that cars could still come in and out of the airport. I still made sure that we had sewer and water connections to a lot of these other areas as best as I possibly could. And I made sure that the train routes would keep on running. But we still have a lot more work to do. You can see that this train station is still pushing up against the mountain unnaturally. We still have these crazy train track configurations that just do not work. This huge, long, elevated stretch of train that we might actually keep, but we're definitely going to have to make sure that all the elevations and all are gradual across this valley. We might beam it up a little bit so that it's not elevated the entire way around, because that's very expensive, considering this would probably be a newer piece of infrastructure with all the airport and highway development. This would be more of a retrofit type of thing, and that's very expensive. So we might just be a lot more careful with how we elevate up this train line. I might want to rethink this intersection, although it's not doing too badly, but I might want to rethink this intersection at least slightly. rethink, and I definitely want to rethink these subway yards. This is kind of a mess. I want to turn this more into an industrial area, really revamp this whole area into a big industrial park. So I'm going to make some of those changes, but it's probably going to be tomorrow in real life for me because I got to go to bed. Good morning, everybody. We are back in Commons County. Another day for me. It's been a few days. I actually had to let the game simulate painfully slowly through the depths of winter's snow, just so that I could be able to actually see what I'm doing in this area. This map gets entirely covered by just this blinding white, and when that happens, you have no idea what's happening. It's honestly kind of terrible, and I haven't found a way to disable it yet, so if you know how to, please let me know in the comment section. But my goal for the latter half of this episode is to revamp this area. Now that we have this beautiful new airport design with a highway running through it, we gotta buff up this highway a little bit, maybe have it run through the city with a branch of its own. Maybe we can redirect this highway to come through the city and have Cypress Highway just be a little bit of an exit from there. I don't know. We gotta see how it's gonna turn out, especially with all of this rail infrastructure. I feel like there's something that we can do with this that's gonna be actually interesting. Let's give this a shot. Welcome back, where we are looking at statistics. I know, you expected me to look at the build progress I just made, didn't you? Nope. We are looking at statistics. We are currently in a revenue downfall. I started to look at that, and I saw that our taxes are way lower than they used to be. We used to be making $95 million in taxes. Now we're down to just $27 million. Why is that? I look at our taxation rates, and our residential is down to just $5 million. Our commercial is down to just $1.2 million. Our industrial is at $3.2, and our offices are still doing pretty dang well. We have driven out nearly all of our commercial from this city. We had previously our commercial and industrial taxes were both at 30%, and before the Economy 2.0 patch, that meant nothing. But now, if we go back and we look at our statistics, you can see right when Economy 2.0 kicked in, we experienced a dramatic downfall from thousands of businesses, probably 1,000, 1,500 industrial, 2,000 commercial companies, all the way down to zero. Nearly zero commercial and less than 200 industrial companies. We're starting to see a rebound on that, but it's very slow. So for the time being, I've lowered our commercial tax rate a lot, but what I'm gonna do is set it all the way down to 1%. When we start to really need money, which I don't think is gonna happen anytime soon with our $1 billion of cash reserves, we can just raise this back up to 12% and suddenly have another 6 million or more in the bank. But for now, let's keep this just at 1%, really incentivize people to come on into our city. We'll lower our industrial tax rate too, bring that down to 8%, so we can hopefully just get back some of those businesses that we've lost. If we look at our downtown, which is still in the midst of our death waves because, you know, things are slow. Things are slow moving in this city. We can look at all this high density commercial, which is empty and available for rent, empty and available for rent, empty and available for rent. Look at all these signs upon signs. If you're a company here, you're a company here. This really feels like an abandoned, dead city right here. Kind of digging that vibe, to be honest. It makes me think of urban renewal needs, where you see all these old buildings that are kind of rotting and falling apart. This old style, kind of Japanese looking building over here, with a streetcar running through it and crazy topography. This area just feels really old and run down. It feels like not many places are using the services that are here anymore. And honestly, I kind of dig that. I think at some point we are going to be doing some urban renewal type of things. We're going to be bringing this area back to life, and we're going to get all of these commercial. Oh gosh, look at this. Just this city right here. Take this as a picture. Just this little snapshot over here of dead people, commercial, just everything is insane. But it's fine. That's not what we're focusing on today. Today, we are focusing on this industrial area, and here you see a total change to the region. Yes, this highway is still here because, as I've mentioned many times in this episode and the last one, my goal is to maintain access while we're doing this work, more in lines with reality. Right now, we actually have both highways open in parallel, just for a couple days while we make this switch over, but I just pulled this connection through on this end, as well as the connection through on the other end. what I actually done is I've shifted this cargo train terminal that used to be right up against this cliff edge back a little bit. I've deleted some of the roads that ran through this area, and then I took the elevation that this cargo train terminal was at, and I flattened out a little bit of a pad up here for Underhill Highway. Underhill and Robin Highway, apparently. Then I found this intersection up here. First I actually tried this middle point, and the slope was just way too steep, so I dragged it all the way out to this intersection. Found that this was a pretty reasonable, roughly 9% slope. It's not something that we'd really want for trucks and heavy freight traffic in the area, but considering that this is a mountain highway, 9% is pretty reasonable. We're still underneath the 10% or so maximum that we would really want. So a 9% grade, you can see in the middle of the screen, 9.1% is pretty manageable. Obviously, there's still a lot of lumps and bumps to iron out. We got all these different retaining walls. We've got bridges where there ain't supposed to be bridges. We got retaining walls where we got no retaining walls when there are really supposed to be some. More bridges, and we got a lot of lumpy and bumpies. But this is the start of our new highway, and we got people already taking it. It seems that people are loving this new, wider highway instead of this older, narrower one. That might partially be because this one is pretty prone to accidents. This is a steep decline that's coming in at a sharp curve, and this curve is bound to kill people. In fact, this one already seems like it was. Oh, the poor Smith family, poor Leanne Smith. Seems like she drove right off the highway and into the woods. Poor girl. Oh well. What else? In addition to all that, I've also reselected all of my map tiles. Our tile upkeep cost was crazy because we originally had all of these tiles purchased, and this is completely unnecessary. We have nothing built up here, nothing built in these regions. We just have a few infrastructure nodes in these other parts. That was totally unnecessary. We're not using these, we're not getting tax revenue from it, so it does not make sense to have those purchased and to be paying taxes on them. So what I've done is I've redrawn the borders. There's a few things that we're probably going to purchase, like this one right here. I'd like to buy right now, actually. But high level, this has meant that our tiling upkeep has been roughly halved, actually. We went from like 84 map tiles left to 219. So we have a lot more that we can do now, a lot more budget flexibility. Economy 2.0 is not destroying us quite as much, but we're getting there on the start. Next thing I wanted to talk about is this interchange with the airport. What we originally have over here is a pretty standard low capacity highway interchange that we would typically see going onto a residential street. This means that people are going to have to be making right and left turns, crossing each other at this point. There's less crossing over here, but it's still generally meant for a low traffic street, not for a highway like this. That said, this was working fine because this highway was essentially treated as a low traffic street. It only has a few points where it branches off into more residential areas, and this highway wasn't getting very much use. The airport wasn't really getting much use initially. But now we actually have hundreds of people waiting at our train station. We have people parking all along this area. This highway is actually being used as people are driving through it to get access to the industrial area, get access to the mountains, all sorts of things. So we actually need to buff up this highway connection. I'm going to create a standard flyover T-junction, which you can see that I've drawn the movements out for here. In this case, we're going to want one movement that goes from Robin Highway onto Cypress Highway with a right-hand turn, one movement from Underhill Highway onto Cypress Highway with a left-hand turn, and back. Right now, this is all flat. Is technically working, and without backups, might I add, but it's not what we want to see. What I'm thinking that we're going to do is we're going to elevate this right turn segment, we're going to sink this left turn segment, and these two might be able to stay at grade if we can manage that with how beautiful this thing is going to end up. We'll see. Once that's built, I want to think about how we can integrate this interchange into an exit into the industrial district. We're also going to want to think about alternative exits into the industrial area. But first, we got to fix up this interchange. So, oh boy, oh boy. We now have a little bit of an intersection. It's a start. It's a start. Doesn't connect fully up with these industrial roads. We have a termination for this highway that provides this connection to these subway yards. I don't know, it's progress, I think. A little bit rough still. We have all the core concepts, we have everything going. As we get down and around this corner, we have this bridge that flies over and connects into the airport highway. Or you can travel underneath But I think I'm liking this so far. I mean, it's workable, but we have a little bit more work to do. Get that started. Okay, hello, I hope you enjoyed that little time lapse. We have really buffed up this whole area. You can see that we have this whole interchange over here, which is working exactly as intended. This overpass going right over the streetlights, so we know that it's perfectly the correct height. I love how this interchange is sandwiched in between this train track. We talked about this little local road connection. I think that's something that I want to buff up or even change up as we get to changing around these train yards. Probably going to be something for the next episode at this point. But what we've also done is we've begun to add these local connections, a way of accessing this industrial area from the highway without needing at-grade crossings. First off, when you're heading towards the airport and towards the outer connection, you want to get into downtown, you can take the same exit that you would take towards the airport and you do a loop-de-loop to get onto Myrtle Street. Myrtle Street is also what will take you back in that direction. One of the things that's most interesting about the way that you access this industrial area is that it's not at a singular large interchange. Each of the individual directions and access points has its own main area. So in order to access Myrtle Street over here from Valley Highway, you can do a loop-de-loop. Similarly from Sunnyside Highway, you just have a little bit of a in and out onto a roundabout that takes you onto Poplar Street. Poplar Street then intersects with Evergreen Street, which brings you onto Myrtle Street. Evergreen Street also is the road that takes you onto the airport bypass, where we finally hooked into those secondary lane connections from each of these. We hooked into those, connected them up, and now we effectively have turned Evergreen Street and Poplar Street into our little arterials with Myrtle Street as a collector for that. And I think that we can play around with this idea a little bit more, maybe in the next episode or whenever we get back to developing this area. It would be interesting to see if we can turn Evergreen Street and Poplar Street into a highway that kind of turns the corner here around this roundabout. Have Myrtle Street is a high capacity road that feeds into it, maybe also a highway with just this roundabout being maybe enlarged, turned into an intersection over there. But honestly, I'm loving how this intersection is looking. It feels very natural. It feels very, not necessarily overbuilt, but it feels very concrete. I love how this feeds into the airport and creates this dynamic mess where, let's say that there's heavy traffic backed up around this exit to get into the airport. Maybe people end up taking this loop in through the industrial area through Evergreen Street and directly into the airport. This is something that I've actually done in the past in Newark Airport in New York, where rather than taking the highway direct into the airport as it's related, you actually just go through the industrial area and take the back roads. And it can be a lot faster sometimes. So I just think that that's a really fun way of kind of tying into the airport, tying into the surrounding areas, tying into the highway, without really overcomplicating it with more interchanges on this steep slope we've got. You saw in that time lapse that we kind of did up a little bit more of this terraforming. It's not perfect yet. This whole area is still yet to be figured out. All of these uses are still a total mess in the rail yards and all, but at least now we have this highway interchange all set up. And I think the last thing that I want to do for today is get rid of this old highway. And we'll do that on camera together, just because it is the satisfying moment when you know that you've made great progress at last. All that we got to do is drag our tool all the way up here. Likewise, come all the way back down. Finish up by that segment, and done. Now we have the old remnants of a highway. Now what I've done is I've actually put a hiking trail in right where this highway used to be, just to kind of signify it a little bit to us. But that's all that is. We're gonna have to iron out these connections, iron out the signal, iron out this pedestrian path and all this terraforming in the next episode. But for now, this has been a good few days of working on this for me, and I am pretty happy with how it's turning out. Economy 2.0 is busy doing its thing. I'd like to say that we're making a slight dent in the number of dead people, but we're definitely starting to see a little bit of a bounce back in our businesses. We're actually at more than 500 commercial companies, more than 500 industrial companies again. It's taken us a while to get back here, but we're starting to do it, and I think that that's some pretty good progress. We're actually getting $500,000 in commercial taxation, even at 1%. We boost that up to 12%, that's $6.5 million. So I think we're doing pretty well. Economy 2.0 was wrecking this city, but that's having to be fixed gradually over time because our simulation speed is so slow. We're at 0.4 on a good day, but often closer to 0.25, where typical simulation speed is 1, 2, or 3. So we are painfully slow, and Economy 2.0 is doing the thing, but I think that we're having a lot of fun in the time being, enjoying creating these intersections, building out these highways, our airports, this intersection. We're having a lot of fun. So thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next episode. Bye bye!